I'm Garry Fraser. I'm the Director of Acute Services here at Forth Valley Royal Hospital. The key values for me in the organisation are around being open and honest and engaging with people. I think it's really important that we foster a culture where we're approachable, people feel that they're able to come and tell us things, good or bad, and that allows us to develop the teamwork and fix issues as they arise. The key things for us as a leadership team is teamwork. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows all the issues or the answers to things. So what we try and do within this team here, in the senior team, is work collectively, collaboratively, take issues in as a team, work our way through them, and then see how that we try and deliver the services going forward. One of the most important things is always thinking about patient care for us. We are trying to ensure that we deliver the best service we can, and how do we do that is about getting the best we can out of our people and working with our people. So having that open engagement, visibility, with the teams, being on here on the Forth Valley Royal site, and engaging with people is really important, I think. Working with the teams internally and externally is really about us collaboratively working together, understanding what each person brings, or each department or each organisation brings to delivering services is important. One of the things that we do is we have regular meetings with departments, with our partners such as the Health Social Care Partnerships, and understanding where we fit into whatever that goal is. Everyone has a voice. We hear that voice, we take account of what people are saying and their point of view, and then we come up with our plans of how we're going to deliver services. And of course people will have different points of view, but the most important thing is that we listen to that, we take account of it, people feel heard and engaged. One of the key things that we know from NHS Forth Valley is there's been a difficult culture in the past, and it's around us moving on from that. And for me, one of the key things that I've noticed is that people don't feel heard. They don't necessarily feel valued, regardless of what your job is. So I think as a team, what we are trying to do is ensure that we do hear people's voices and we try and move on from where we've been in the past. The values and how we deliver care to patients across the system is really important. I think one of the main things you always think about is how would you want treated, is how we treat other people. Really simple stuff. Unknowingly, some people have maybe got to a point where they are engaging, it's not really the way that we would expect. So it's about just challenging that in a nice way, saying to people that's not really how we want to behave anymore, and role modelling it as a team, and really trying to live the values through the organisation. In my experience, we get the most out of the organisation and people if we all work together. Now, of course, people have different points of view on things, and I understand that, but it also gives you a wealth as well. It gives you a different view of looking at things. So one of the things I think that I noticed when I came here was that people weren't necessarily working together. We've put a lot of hard work into trying to work as a whole system, and what that means is, if you look at a patient's journey from pre-hospital, once you come into the hospital and then once you get discharged through into the community, for example, there's a lot of steps in that. There's a lot of teams that have influence on that patient's journey, and I think the collaboration that we now have has really helped that. So working with NHS 24 and the ambulance service for the pre-hospital primary care, then once we come into our ED department through our intensive care unit, right through into our wards, and then our onward discharge into the community. The observation I had was that we could be doing that a lot better. Working with our Health and Social Care Partnerships, there's 2 new chief officers, or relatively new chief officers in place here now as well. And if we can get that team working closely together, which we have, that really makes a difference to patients' journey, but also really makes a difference to staff. Your working environment then becomes better. Your movement of patient and patient passing on through the system becomes more smooth. And then we reduce things like delays on the site as well, which helps in terms of people's working environment and the pressures in the hospital. So some of it's about system and process of how we're working the system, and some of it's about relationships. And really simple things like sitting in the lecture theatre with groups of staff saying, how are things? Really makes a difference to people. But if we can hear those problems and try and work our way towards them, then that's what makes a difference to staff. And it absolutely makes a difference to how we deliver our services to patients as well. I chair a whole system group on a Tuesday, I chair another whole system call on a Friday, and we bring in partners from pharmacy, from ambulance service, from mental health, for example, and that just gives us all an overview of what's happening on this site, what challenges do you have. And sometimes I find that some of the teams feel that they've been working really hard and they've got problems, and then they hear other teams and they go, well, maybe my side of things is not as bad as I thought it was, or now I understand the challenges that you've got. So it's really just, I suppose a wee bit of a cliche when people say walk in my shoes, but it's almost a bit of that. If we can understand what the challenges the other teams have got, how we're interacting together, then we can make a difference for the whole system working. So I would say that's one of the key things that we've been working on over the last, since I've been here really. Engaging and connecting people. I think the role that I have has a real role in connecting people, connecting departments and saying, okay, we feel that's not working so smoothly, that could be working better. How can we, who can we get from that team to speak to? We've really made some developments in that area of getting that whole system working and connecting people. The other thing I think for my job is to be an ambassador for not just Forth Valley but our staff as well. So that voice that people feel that in the past have not had. So where does that get escalated to? I think it's important that we've redefined the structures within the acute setting so people understand where they sit in the organisation and where do they escalate things to. One thing we've worked really hard at within the senior team here is clinical reporting and making sure that we understand adverse events and how do we take steps to change that going forward. So the clinical governance is really strengthened here on the Forth Valley sites particularly. That voice for people as well, so if things do need escalated through the system, I'm an ambassador for people that they can escalate their issues through and be assured that that's going to be taken to, if necessary, the executive team or the board. And it's that two-way interaction, I suppose, for me, that having one foot in the executive team and one foot back here in the acute site, that we've got that good flow of information and escalation of information as well. We are better connected, we've got the whole system working, we've got better communication through the system, and we have that connection from board to front door services, wherever you are in the organisation, that we keep that communication going. Some of it's just about structure and being well prepared. So structure first of all, having notes, having minutes, having agendas. So I've got to say, some of the meetings we went to initially didn't have things like that. And then also accountability around that as well. So you said you were going to do, have you done? And that doesn't need to be in an aggressive way, it's just about accountability. And so what are the obstacles to you meeting that objective that we asked you to do? And just making sure we keep that on the agenda. One of the things, and it probably links back into leadership style that we have, is the autocratic command and control type of leadership isn't required 95% of the time. Occasionally you do. Okay, so we had a complete power loss on the Forth Valley site just in January this year. Running that type of incident in a command and control way is the way you have to do it. We have to be very direct. We have to ask people to run up to the wards and come back down and give us a sit rep within 20 minutes, and you give people time scales. But that can also be done in a nice way. People know what they're doing. It's not shouty, it's not aggressive, but people know exactly what they do and what time they need to come back to. So you have that if you really need it, but 95% of the time you don't. The rest of the time it's about being well-structured meetings, it's about accountability and connecting people. We're all in it together, it's a whole system approach, and I think that's perhaps where people are saying they feel that meetings and others are running better. People feel that when they're joining something, it's achieving something. You know, so if they feel as if the meeting's worthwhile, and it's, you know, we're going to achieve something by doing this, then people become more invested. And the goal is always to deliver better care for our patients and our staff as well. You know, working with likes of the unions and the local staff, it's really important to hear their view on things, and then we take account of that when we're delivering the services going forward. There's a patient care answer where when I was an operational paramedic, I was caught over my shift. I was going, you know, got a treble 9 call just as we were meant to be finishing. I think it's something on that night. And I go way out to a patient. I couldn't quite establish why we had been called there, and you feel yourself getting a bit annoyed and say, well, why are we here? Why are we here? But it turned out that this poor lady had a massive tumour under her arm that she'd been hiding, and I thought, why have I been feeling annoyed? They've called me out for something that's probably life-threatening, and I felt terrible because I thought, you know, I've got my own wee life, whatever I was going to do that night, you know, and I just think, you know, this is a really difficult situation for this couple. And it just made me think, you know, you don't always know what's going on the other side of things. So in that situation, hopefully I'm describing it well enough that, you know, it turns out this lady's embarrassed and she's, you know, been hiding this, you know, really this massive tumour that she's got. So it made me think, you know, it's not always immediately obvious why someone's behaving the way they are or what they've done. I suppose into my leadership management career, it's been a similar thing. You know, you think that people are being awkward or they're being obtuse or, you know, that they don't want to do their work or whatever it is. And I think I learned early on that, you know, there's other things going on in people's lives. It sounds a really obvious thing to say. You know, you need to try and take account of that, and that's where building relationships with people and understanding why they're maybe behaving the way they are, and they won't immediately tell you what it is. To a certain extent, they don't necessarily need to tell you, but I think you need to have that awareness just to recognise that almost from the word go, there must be something else going on here because you're not able to undertake your work. You need to try and be at your best as often as you can for people. Everybody's got stuff going on in their lives, but I think when you're in a senior leadership position, you need to try and understand that other people might have issues going on and take account of that going forward. I think the most important thing for me is building relationships with people is important. If you've had a clinical background, keeping some of your clinical skills up will give you credibility. I know I could go up to any one of the wards today and say, this is a new manager, could they come around the ward with you today? Could you come around ED, whatever? And they would all say yes, because they would be willing for them to understand the issues and what their environment is. In this team that we have along this corridor here, there's 11 or 12 of us here. And we have AMDs who are experts in their field of what they do, but they're the medical branch of this corridor. We have our nursing teams, we have AHP, we have labs and diagnostics, we have heads of service. Use your team, use the experts that you've got at hand. We're a massive organisation. You've got HR specialists, you've got specialists in labs, we've got, you know, lots of managerial experience, we've got medicine, we've got everything here. So seek those people out, ask them their advice, but it's okay not to know everything. Sometimes it's, you know, a case of, let me go and have a look into that and see what the best way is of taking it forward, and that's okay. That's all right to do that. You don't need to know everything and you won't. So that would be my biggest point of advice.